did a little over 15 million. You should really focus on that'll make the most difference for the least amount of money, which happens to be free, is really manage your. So if you can work your way into that, I feel like that's where you're going to get the most return, and it costs you absolutely nothing.
What's going on, guys? Today I'm joined by Aaron Christie. Aaron is the owner of Indie Roof and Restoration in Indianapolis, Indiana. He's crushing with his business, so I'm super excited to deep dive into it. But for starters, appreciate you coming on today, Aaron.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate it.
For sure. So just for context for the people watching, do you mind sharing a little bit about your business and kind of like the size of your business at this point?
Sure. So I started, it was originally Indie Roof Company. It was the end of 2017. And it was just me being out there selling. I'd originally started the company as a way to, feed my family and be able to, build this business. And as I got into it, I realized how much I liked it and how many opportunities and availability there was. And we started doing really well in the first couple of years when it was just me for about the first year and a half. And I was kind of learning the ins and outs because I didn't come from the roofing field before. So I'd really learn a lot. And so I actually learned a lot by watching a lot of YouTube videos and different things and going to conferences. I even went across the country to a few different places and visited with some other roofing companies that had been doing this a while and were willing to share information with me. And I think that's really one of the key things is people continually learning and growing and finding these different things that will help them advance their business. And I still do that to this day because things constantly change, like the new technologies, new softwares are coming out, just in the roofing industry too, the temperature of, the insurance market, which is we're predominantly insurance in the market that we're in, that's constantly changing and you have to stay on top. So that's why I agreed to do this is I do think the value that you provide to people is extremely important so that people can continue to grow and learn. And there's still tons of stuff that I want to learn too. So I always get value out of something somewhere along the way as well. But about 2 years in, I decided to start growing, and I brought on some at the time, a couple part-time sales reps. And then I think in 2020, right when COVID was hitting, I decided, hey, I'm in a good position. I feel like I'm very comfortable with everything. I made sure that my capital was in the right position before I started hiring W-2 employees and really building the company. And we did that, and I hired a GM. We started hiring other sales reps. And the COVID thing, it was crazy because in the roofing industry, I think a lot of people just from the past it was door knockers, right? Like that's how they got a lot of their leads. And it still exists, and it's still a very good way to get business. But it was really predominantly door knocking. And I did not do any door knocking. I actually took some classes on Facebook ads, Google My Business, and worked with realtors. And so when COVID hit, it didn't affect me at all as far as my marketing. And in fact, in 2019, I think we did like 3.8 million. And then in 2020, because nobody else could knock doors, I was crushing it on Facebook because there wasn't a ton of people doing that yet. And we ended up going and doing 10 million the next year. And it's about, hey, what was going on? Fortunately, the area that I was in and the things that I like to do to market weren't affected by COVID. So we tripled in size. And it was a great year. And then we just kept continuing on down that path. And, now we are in 23. We did a little over 15 million. We have our still single location in Indianapolis. A lot of it is based on a lot of the same marketing practices and things that we began the company with. We have grown and evolved as a company, a lot of different SOPs, a lot of different positions that help manage all of that. Because as you grow as a company, you'll see it's very easy, especially when you're involved with the day-to-day operations, like you're in sales and you're dealing with the customers and you're doing all of these things. Very easy to kind of work through some of the issues. But when you start passing on that stuff to other people, and then you have more customers and more things that pop up, the operations is what's going to shift. It's easy once you get the sales, but then you need to make sure the quality stays up to place. And anybody that goes from like 3 to 8 million will see that, okay, I can't do the same things today that I did, a year or two ago. So that's kind of where we've been focusing our efforts here in the last few years, is just making sure that the operations and everything handled from when we were doing that beginning stuff, when you asked about this starting, matches, so the quality and everything stays up to date.
That's awesome. Hearing that in 2017 it was just you, and then to the size you guys are now, is super impressive. I mean, most businesses take decades to scale to where you guys are at now. So doing that in under a decade, in itself is super impressive. But what's even more so impressive, especially in the industry you're in, is that you've done that without relying so much on door knocking, which a lot of the companies I hear in your industry that get to that size, it's because they have dozens of door knockers every day, just, piling into different neighborhoods and selling jobs that way. So the fact that you did that solely from relationships and Facebook ads, and I'm sure some other stuff as well, but just from that is super impressive. So I definitely want to dive into that. But I guess, is there one strategy when it comes to marketing you feel like has brought you the most significant returns?
So we always talk about, if you're cooking, you need to cook with all ingredients, right? Like, so if you're making a cake, it takes, some eggs, some flour, some sugar, all of these different things. And that's what makes the cake taste delicious, right? And if you start leaving specific ingredients out, it's not as good. Same concept. That's what we talk about when we're talking about the things that we have to do every day, and a lot of different aspects of the business, marketing being one of them. So today, we do everything. So you have your LSA, your SEO, your social media ads, your relationships. We even do some door knocking now. We cook with all the ingredients. But if there was one thing that I could tell anybody, and I do tell people when they ask me, that you should really focus on, that'll make the most difference for the least amount of money, which happens to be free, is really manage to your Google Business Profile, or Google My Business, or Google Maps is what other people, but they've changed it. It's Google Business Profile now. I started doing that immediately. I took a course on, at the time, Google Maps, and really went in on that. I started asking every single person for reviews, and it's not just the jobs that we completed, but if I went out and did an inspection for somebody and they had no damage, I still did a service for them, even though I'm not getting paid for it. So I would say, hey, would you mind leaving me a review and letting people know that I'm honest and I'm not telling you to file a claim when you don't need one, or I'm not telling you that you need to buy a roof from me when you don't need one. And then those people are like, yeah, sure, not a problem. And they would leave some of the best reviews. Hey, Aaron came out, looked at my roof, said everything was great, didn't need them this time, but when I do need a roof, I'm absolutely going to call them because they were honest. And I got just as many calls from that as people saying, hey, I've read this and you did a great roof for this person. Like, a lot of people just want to know, hey, do I need this or do I not need this? And I'm sure that's transferable across industries. We're talking roofs now, but, in a lot of industries, people are unsure, like, hey, and maybe it's in a different industry, like, hey, do I need to do all of this or maybe just this? Like, hey, I called them to come out and do this entire job, but they said, hey, you don't really need to do that if you just do this small thing over here, and then make sure and get reviews from those people. And so I did that. We posted an update every week. We were doing pictures. And now we have, I believe, the second most reviews in the state. Even though the only person that has more than us is somebody that's been around for like 45 years. And they're only above us by like 100, 150 reviews. We have over 1,500 reviews in that amount of time because we're very intentional about asking for reviews. We do our weekly updates. We post our pictures. We do everything. So when you move into that map pack, that's where, myself included, most people I feel like go to look to find somebody, because you have, in our industry, you have LSA up front, or the Google Guaranteed, as most people know it. Mm-hmm. And then you're going to have your paid ads, and then you're going to have the map pack. Somebody like me, like, I skip over the paid stuff and go to the organic stuff in the map pack because, one, I want to see where they are. One or two, I want to look at the reviews and kind of read through those, and just it shows how long they've been open and everything like that. So that's where I go. So if you can work your way into that map pack, I feel like that's where you're going to get the most return, and it costs you absolutely nothing but intentionality and consistency.
That's awesome. I was actually checking at this point. You guys have a little over 1,600 Google reviews. So you guys are definitely crushing it in regards to that, and that was something I did want to touch on. And so that's really interesting. That's actually not something that like I've ever heard someone talk about in the home service space in general, is that even people that aren't customers of yours, you're still able to squeeze the juice out of those opportunities, and if not turn them into customers, by at least getting a 5-star review, which, like you said, it's transferable to different industries. So that's actually a really good strategy that I'm sure plenty of people in many industries are closing maybe 1 out of 3 people they speak to. That's 2 extra people, or an extra 60% of Google reviews they could be getting that they're not already.
Yeah, and that's what I tell people. I'm like, you did a service. We're not asking random people for reviews that never did anything. Like, you went out there and performed a 30, 45-minute inspection and got them a photo report or whatever it is. Like, you're doing a service for people when you're providing an estimate or you're looking at something for them. Just because you didn't get paid doesn't mean anything. You still did a service, so make it worth your time. If you took 30 minutes to do something for them and you're not getting a job out of it, ask them for a review so you still get something. You're not wasting your time. And in our industry, what we do to kind of solidify we're going to get those a little more, because a lot of people don't do it. If you go, hey, will you leave me a review? Boom, send it off, and then take off. People don't intentionally not leave you reviews. They're just busy. Like, they're like, yeah, for sure. And you send it, then or later on down the road, or maybe even an automated system that sends it later. They probably plan on doing it and plan on leaving you a 5-star review. But they get in, they start cooking dinner, kids get home, they go to work, but things happen, right? So what we do is we go and, if we're doing an inspection and there's no damage, let's say, we go up and we show them the photo report. We send them a copy of the photo report using a system called Company Cam. I think it's like $12 a user or something. It makes really cool reports automatically. But we'll send that to them. And we'll show them there's no damage. I said, hey, will you do me a huge favor? Will you just leave us a 5-star review? They really help us. They let people know that we're honest, and we're going to give you an honest opinion. Yeah, sure, no problem. Cool. I'm going to send that to you, and then I'm going to do my final walk-arounds, and then I'll come back up and we'll finish up. And so I send it to them right then. I just walk around their house one more time, go around, grab my ladder, put my ladder up, put it in the back of my truck, close the tailgate, take my time. I give them 2 or 3 minutes. And then because I'm still there and I told them I'm going to come back and talk to them, normally they put it in their mind, okay, like he's expecting me to do this right now. And they do it right now. And it's going to increase your conversion on those to where you're going to get a lot more of them because people are going to do it right then.
Yeah, that's also a great strategy because, like you said, a lot of people, they have life going on, so they're just going to forget about it, and not intentionally. But if you get it done right then and there, then there's no more back and forth. You're saving yourself time and just increasing likelihood they actually do leave you a review.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Again, most people are not trying to be mean about this or ignoring you. It's just they're busy. They got lives, man. And to them, it's not as important, but to you, it should be extremely important. So if you give them the opportunity and availability to do that right then, they'll typically take it.
For sure. And so just to recap then with your Google My Business ranking, the main things you're focusing on is 1, obviously getting those 5-star reviews and responding to those reviews, updating your listing, and then just posting photos, you said once a week? Yeah,
I believe updates and photos, I think, over once a week doesn't really matter. If you do it once a week, it's like, so your GBP or your Google page is just like a social media, right? So people think oh, I make this and then that's it, right? It's there forever. But there's, and they may have changed some of the wording. My marketing team does this now. They've taken it over for me. But it used to be updates on there. Hopefully it still is. But you go in there and you can post updates of what's going on currently once a week. And then consistently getting reviews. Even if we had 1,600 now and we stopped getting them, it would still trend down even if we had the most in the state because it's not showing that we're trending or consistent, right? They want to see consistency. So if we're posting updates weekly, we're posting photos weekly, we're consistently getting reviews, responding to reviews. That's all going to help you trend to the top.
Makes sense. Awesome. And so aside from Google, just to switch focuses a little bit, obviously Google is a huge, it might be the most important platform, but I noticed you guys are on tons of platforms. I tell our clients all the time, be on as many free platforms as possible and just recycle your content. But you guys are posting on platforms that even we don't use, like X or Pinterest and other platforms like that. So I'm curious, I'm sure you're recycling content to make it pretty easy to make those posts, but have you seen any type of results having posted on those less popular platforms?
I don't know, like if you can directly correlate that stuff to it. One, the more citations you have, it's going to help your SEO, right? So the more listings you have that match up to, you want to have the same name, same address, same phone number, same, all that information, which is a big pain when we changed from Indie Roof Company to Indie Roof and Restoration. That's a lot of stuff to go over and change. But we have a team to get it done. I think there's still maybe a few citations they're working on because the change was pretty recent. I think maybe 3 months ago or something. But all in all, now you have a listing in all of these citations, which is giving your company more authority because you have all of these listings that match. So I don't know if you can directly, I don't know if anybody's ever got on Twitter or X and said like, oh, I need a roof inspection. But if you search, Indie Roof Company or Indie Roof and Restoration, now those things are going to come up in the searches, which is going to, the more Indie Roof Company stuff there is or Indie Roof and Restoration stuff there is, the less it's going to start pulling in other roofing companies and popping them in there as well. So then we dominate the page by having all these different citations and listings.
Makes sense. So not so much with the goal of getting tons of followers on X and then getting customers through it, but more so for those additional citations and also to hold more real estate on Google and kind of remove other roofing companies from that?
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, though, it's recycling a lot of the content. Like you can take one piece of content and get it in like 9 different places. I mean, you take that piece of content, you got your normal social medias, then you got your reels on those social medias, then you got your GBPs and your Pinterest and your LinkedIns. And like, so you can take one piece of content and put it in 9 different places where there's a different group of people looking on every one. Like some people will answer, phone calls, whereas some people, read the newspaper, whereas some people, get their news from the internet. So I mean, there's different groups of people that look at different things. There's people that live on Pinterest. There's people that live on X. So you're cooking with all the ingredients, like full circle, when you're hitting all of the platforms and all of the different places.
100%. And so, I mean, it's pretty clear you guys understand leveraging all those platforms, but that's something like Facebook is where most of the people you're trying to market to are probably hanging out. So just looking at the content, you can clearly see you guys put a lot of effort into the content on Facebook. Can you talk a little bit about your strategy behind that? I really like it. It's good quality. There's a lot of funny content as well. Do you guys have like a virtual assistant you use that creates content, someone in-house, kind of like your strategy behind that?
Yeah, we got a full-time videographer, social media person. So Facebook is the predominant efforts of that's where we create all of this stuff for, and then it gets recycled to the other platforms as well. But most of the people that are going to be in the buying market for these things, I feel like are on Facebook. That's where we've had the most success. Some of the other platforms, your Instagrams and TikToks, that's younger. It's still good, and it's growing, and now there's older people on there. But like when you market to people, you normally market to we do anyway, like age 30 to, which is the top one, 65 plus, right? So 30 to 65 plus, and so Facebook, what we do is we run some continual branding ads, just so our name's out there. Like there's no call to action or anything, just content that hopefully people would want to watch, either brings value or is a little funny or whatever it may. Roofs are boring. I'm sure power washing is probably a little boring as well. I do feel like some of the befores and that, like if you watch social media, like I watch TikTok, right? And so if you look, like there's the guys that cut the yards and do the transformations, right? You could create some really cool videos for power washing with oh my gosh, look how crazy this thing was and how dirty it was. And I think they even might have some of that. Like you could create some really good videos from before, after or during the whole thing, like a time-lapse video, different things like that. It's a little harder to do that on roofing. One, roofing's super boring. Like, nobody like, look at this roof, and nobody cares. So that's why we try to do some entertaining stuff, and we want them to get people to know us at the company. Like, you'll see us doing stuff in the office, and we have a ping pong table here where we play ping pong sometimes, and we'll post some stuff on that. But we want to have them get to know us as a company and as people, because nobody cares about roofing pictures. Like, it's just not something where people want to go look the stuff up unless they're actively replacing the roof and want to see some ideas, which is a very small percentage of the population. So you got to get them in your algorithm by other things like, oh, these guys are funny, or hey, they're doing this thing, or whatever it may be. But yeah, in Facebook, we do some branding ads that include all of that content I was just talking about, sometimes fun stuff in the office, this and that, to get our name out there. And then we will do some actual ads with calls to action, where we go in and have them fill out a lead online. And then it goes into our scheduler, which we have on our website. And you can pick a day and time that they want us to come out. And if it's available, you say, hey, I picked this day, I picked this time. We'll show up at your house on that day and time and do the inspection within, I think they allow a 15 to 30 minute window, just in case another inspection ran over or something like that. But that's kind of our ad strategy there. And then I think those ads do roll over into Instagram as well.
Awesome. Okay. And I mean, that's a really good point for even something like pressure washing, which is probably going to be a majority of the people watching this do have pressure washing businesses. We're fortunate in that we can have really satisfying videos that, is engaging, people like watching that. But that alone should not be your entire content strategy. Like just those time-lapse videos, just before and after pictures, it's great. It shows what you can do. But like you said, people buy from people, so they want to see the people behind the business, that you guys enjoy what you're doing, having fun with the team, and that you're a real company. And so, posting those satisfying videos and before and afters is good, but should not be your entire content strategy. Mimicking exactly what you mentioned, and I'll throw some examples up on the screen as well. But doing stuff like that is going to increase the likelihood of someone wanting to buy from you so much more, because now they can envision who's actually showing up to their house. It's someone fun, joking around with their coworkers, as opposed to someone they don't know because they're just hiding behind a logo or before and after picture.
Yeah, absolutely agree 100%.
And so when it comes to your paid advertising strategy using Facebook ads, is it similar in nature where it's more so focused on the people and the faces behind the business, or is that more so focused on the actual service itself?
No, I believe that's more on the service itself. The branding ads probably have a mix of service and then the people. So I think it's a good mixture of that. But the actual ones with the CTAs in it, or the call to actions in it, are going to be service based on, hey, this is what's going on, if you want a roof inspection type of deal.
Awesome. Okay. Switching focus a little bit, I know you mentioned Google is huge, Facebook is also huge. You also mentioned relationships. That might have been before we started the recording we were talking, but you had mentioned how relationships specifically with realtors was huge for you guys. For pressure washing, that's also a really great way of getting more work, because you can have recurring work coming from these different relationships. Can you talk a little bit about how people can get their foot in the door with these relationships and then actually convert them into long-term partnerships? Yeah,
so that is the cool thing about realtors. It's reoccurring business. There's a couple different ways to get involved with realtors. Old school, you can start walking into realtors' offices and go, hey, this is what I do. Maybe I can do a lunch and learn for you guys and come in. And with realtors in the office, once a week, they do a lunch and learn, and they typically have a company come in and say, hey, this is what we do. You'll pay $50, $75, $100 for lunch, depending on how big the office is. They'll sit there, they'll listen to you for 10, 15 minutes. Or normally there's a couple people that talk. So you're splitting that lunch bill with a few people, 2 companies maybe, and you'll get to pitch it. Now, then the goal is to keep those relationships alive too. It's not just if you go in and do this pitch one time, they got somebody in there. Every week there's a lunch and learn. So you really got to stand out. And then keep those relationships alive. So go around, talk to each of the people afterwards and say, hey, how you doing? My name's Aaron. Shake their hands, exchange information with them, ask them, what you could help them with. Because the ultimate goal is with relationships, how can you provide them value? With realtors, they're sales reps. At the end of the day, yes, they're helping people, but they have to pay bills. So their job is to get a closing, and it's to get it closed and put past. So how can you provide them value to make those closings go faster, smoother, increase property value, whatever it is? So figure out a way that you can provide them value and maybe set yourself apart from other power washing companies or other companies. Like, as an example, what we do in the roofing industry is, and it's kind of something I created. I was talking to a realtor and somebody that I work with, and she was constantly calling me when a roof came up. It's like after, they've done the inspection, and they're like, oh man, we got 2 weeks to close, and I'm like, that's not enough time to call the insurance company, get them out, get it approved, get a check sent out, get the roof done. You know what I mean? Like, that's not enough time. And then she started calling me before, and it was funny. She'd be like, this one, I remember this one had a green roof on it. It was uglier than hell. And she goes, yeah, Operation Green Roof. Yeah, let's see if we can get rid of this thing before I list it. And so I was like, I went over and looked. It had storm damage. Got a new roof put on it. And I was like, all right, that's cool. Still didn't process it yet. Had another one. She hits me up a month later. Hey, we're about to sell this house. It was a rental of one of her clients. And the property, I went out there, looked at it, ended up getting roof, gutters, siding, and a little bit of paint that was like chipped. So I had this house here, and it was only and this is probably 2019, 2020, probably 2019. So this house here, which was not good looking, they ended up calling me out before they listed it. I got ended up being like a $40,000 claim on this thing, and completely did a facelift on the entire outside of this property. They were going to list it for like 120, ended up listing it for 155. And so they were making $35,000. They paid $1,000 deductible. And so I started processing it at this point, and I'm like, okay, so if they would have called me after they had already accepted this deal with realtors, right, in the middle here, then the seller would have been paying that $1,000 deductible, but the buyer would have got they would have sold it for 120. The buyer would have got all of the equity, right? So I'm like, how do I get this with them, and how do I get out on every single roof that they're going to sell? I'm like, well, if we do it beforehand, one, the seller's going to keep the equity. There's not going to be any problems in the middle of closing. Realtor's going to make more commission because the property's worth more. Seller's going to make more, and they're going to love their realtor for it, which in turn is going to love me for it. The problem is you only talk to a very small percentage of people, and you get them on board with this, even though it takes 10 seconds to text us. So now I'm going to the buyer's realtors. I'm saying, hey, if you call me out to every house that you look at and they haven't done this, the pre-listing inspection, I can do the same thing on the back end. We can make the sellers pay for it, and I can get you instant equity. So now I'm bringing value to buyers and sellers realtors without just waiting for them to call me and go, hey, when you have a problem, call me and I'll try to fix it. I'm saying, hey, let's avoid problems. Let's make you more money. Let's make your sellers and buyers happier and do this. So if you can figure out a niche in your whatever the vertical is of whoever's doing this with realtors to say, how do I provide value, help them, just at minimum, avoid issues at closing. And then if you can figure out how to make them some more money or get them more referrals because their customer is happy with what they've done, it's a game changer. And you'll just have to continue. You get 5 or 6 good realtors that are sending you, a job every month or every 2 months. That's a lot of business in the year without ever doing a single marketing plan, without ever Google, without ever Facebook, without anything else. You're looking at, 20, 30 jobs a year just from them with, 5 or 6 realtors on the low end.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, with every transaction, you hear this all the time. You want everyone to win in that situation. And what you're talking about is there's tons of people involved. You have your business, you have the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the buyer, the seller. There's multiple parties involved, but you found a way to make every single person win in that scenario. So for everyone involved, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. And like you said, if you can create that partnership where everyone wins, they're just going to be feeding you tons of work, month after month. And if you just keep building those relationships with more and more realtors, I mean, for some people that might be enough to keep you completely busy and completely booked out.
Yeah, if you do that, and so we kind of got off topic a little bit talking about that and how it works, but like I said, you could walk into real estate offices, do it that way. You can call real estate signs. You see when they're like, hey, for sale sign, call them and just say, hey, I see you're selling this house. This is what I do, and pitch whatever your stuff is right there. Like, hey, I see that, maybe they have a step that's shifted or something, and they go, I do slab jacking. Let's get this pumped up. It's going to hit on the inspection, so let's avoid that problem beforehand. Or, hey, I see this driveway. We could really add a lot of curb appeal. I see, this house has been on the market for 3 months. Maybe if we add in, and clean this driveway, or we do this and wash this stone away from the house, it's going to look a lot better, add some curb appeal, and maybe you can get it sold quicker. So, yard signs you can definitely call on. Most, not all, but most realtors, real estate websites, if you look at their website and go to contact agents, they'll have in each office all of the cell phone numbers of the agents that work in that office. So you could actually literally get their phone numbers and reach out to them directly from the websites. So those are 3 free ways to do it. Then if you want to become like a preferred vendor, some of these real estate companies will allow you to be a preferred vendor for them, and you can pay a certain fee to be their power washing vendor. And then anytime something comes up and it goes to the home services department of one of these real estate companies, they'll automatically refer you into the job. So that's a paid way to do it.
That's great. And so, I mean, that covers a lot when it comes to those relationships with realtors. And I think for any home service, but especially roofing or pressure washing, that can be a huge component to your growth, and an easy way too, because, it doesn't cost you money to do this. It costs time, but once you put in the reps, then eventually it just starts feeding you work. So that's great. But I'm curious if you do anything with pressure washing businesses, like any mutually beneficial relationships where on your end, if you guys ever see a roof that doesn't make sense to fix up, but it could use a washing, you refer them out to a pressure washer, or vice versa. And on your end, this might be where you guys get more value out of it, is when a pressure washer goes out on a roof, they see it's actually damaged and they shouldn't wash it. Many times they can make more money in commission from referring it out to you guys than they would just washing it themselves. So I'm curious if you guys have those type of relationships, and if you do, how you kind of structure it.
We've actually had one of those relationships in the past, and it would basically exactly what you said. They did some pressure washing, and then they do soft washing of roofs to get rid of the algae and different things like that. And if something they were like, hey, I don't even want to soft wash, like it's in such bad shape, this just needs to be replaced, they would refer it to us. And then we did not actually have like a commission base for that. What we would do is when a roof was in really good shape, but it had a lot of algae and maybe lichen and different things like that, we would in turn refer that back to them for soft washing, which happened a lot, especially when we're dealing with these realtors and stuff. I'd be like, hey, because I had it done on my dad's house. His roof was in great shape, but it just had a lot of those black blue algae streaks, and it just looked kind of bad. But it was only maybe 10 years old, no storm damage, no damage at all, not even really much granule loss. And they went out and redid that, and it looked brand new. And so I would take that picture, and if I'd go look at a property for a realtor, I'd be like, there's no storm damage here, nothing's needed. But if you got this soft washed, which isn't extremely expensive, I don't know what they're charging now. I can't remember at the time. It was like X number of cents per square foot or something like that. I'd be like, look at these pictures, and I would show them like, this is my dad's house. Like, I'm telling you, it's going to add curb appeal, and you're gonna sell this house, better if that's done. And so we would just get them business in return. And so that's kind of the way that we structure that. But they do go hand in hand. And by the way, getting into this real quick, when you are in the realtor, going full circle back to reviews, if you do a realtor deal, that gives you 4 chances for reviews. You got a buyer's agent, seller's agent, buyer, and a seller. So if you make everybody happy and you keep everybody informed to the process of whatever you're doing, you have 4 shots at a review for a single job.
again, tons of golden nuggets. Really quick, and then I want to change topics a little bit. But with these strategies, which are really great strategies, obviously it's not as easy as you push a button, they're automatically sent a review link, and that's that. You need someone that generally is putting in the work and generally wants to get those reviews. So I'm assuming at this stage in the business, maybe early on this was up to you, but at this point, at this scale, I'm assuming it's not you that's going out getting these reviews. So how do you incentivize your team to put in, the work to get those reviews?
There's a couple different things. We have bonus packages for them based on like if they get X number of deals a month. Hey, if you get this number of deals, you get a bonus. Additional, like on top of their commission, it's an additional bonus. But in order to get that bonus, you have to have 4 5-star Google reviews. They're on 5 roofs a day, so like that's very baseline. On top of that, we do pay them $25 for every 5-star Google review and $50 if it has a picture on it. Obviously, the margins are probably a little different between roofing and power washing. But if somebody's out working all day, and what we try to explain to them, they don't always get it. Some of the guys do, some of the guys don't. But the more reviews they get, the more we trend on Google, the more leads we get, the more leads they get, the more money they get. And so if you can get them to understand that, hopefully this just becomes a natural part. We've created SOPs where, hey, this is what you say at the end of this, at the end of the presentation, this is what you do. Obviously, you don't get anywhere close to 100% on that. But just by having a couple of those guidelines, if you guys have quotas or bonuses at all, I would make those contingent on getting reviews that is a reasonable, very reasonable amount. Like somebody could get 25, 30 a month, I truly believe, with the amount of inspections that they're doing. The fact that there doesn't have to be damage, you can get them on things that you're not going to get a job on. I mean, these guys are on, 4 or 5 roofs a day, 20 days a month or more. That's 100. So to get 4 is a no-brainer, right? And it's crazy because you can tell how many you get. Sometimes these guys that are going to hit their bonus but haven't got any reviews yet, the last day or two they get 5, 6, 7. It's like, oh, crazy how you got 7 in 2 days, but you've had 28 days before that. But we started doing that and making contingent. Sometimes we have review contests. Hey, whoever gets the most reviews over the next number of times, like, feel free to go back, reach out to past customers, do whatever you need to do to get either a customer or somebody that you did an inspection for, or future customers or future inspections to leave these reviews. And that'll give us a big bump when we do those reviews, and we'll have a fun prize for that. But, we've had guys that get 30 or 40 in a month before because they're reaching out to past customers and current customers. They're asking at every single one. And so we'll shoot up, 150 to 200 reviews when we do, maybe 45 to 60 day review contest. So
That's great. So, you guys have multiple strategies then. One part of it is just giving them the understanding of why reviews are beneficial, and that alone should be enough to incentivize them, for the longer term potential. But if that's not enough, then you guys are paying out bonuses, which that's another thing, like just from the bonus from getting reviews. If they get as many reviews as possible, that's potentially, $1,000 or more per month that they're making on top of what they're already making. And if that's still not enough, then the bonuses that they would get, that would probably be even larger, they wouldn't get unless they get those reviews. So all those strategies alone, like you said, are probably the reason why you guys have second most reviews in your state. You have over 1,600 reviews at this point, is because everyone on your team is hungry to get those reviews.
Yeah. Hopefully, they could buy in on it. If it's always easier when they understand the why, right? And some of our guys just don't, and they're set in their ways, and they get the bare minimum. Some of our guys get a little bit more. Those contests definitely push the most. But we've just added in the payment, like maybe 2 months ago, the $25 and $50. And so I think we have some negative habits to break in order to make people see. Because I was like, man, if I was you guys, I'd be able to pay my mortgage based off of $25 and $50 reviews. Like, it's not even a question, because when I was doing sales, I asked everybody. Obviously, it's different. It's my company. I wanted them there. I understand the value behind them. But it's absolutely no problem to get 20 a month. It's no problem. Like if you pushed, you could get 30, 40 a month pretty easily. And if you're at, let's say, a quarter of them, you get $50 on, and the other 75%, you get $25 on. That's a big chunk of money right there. So it's about creating habits for everybody, the sales reps, the companies, creating SOPs, and hopefully getting these guys on board and following that. If you're not doing it now, it's going to be a shift. You got to build habits. Nothing is just flip-flopped overnight most of the time. Maybe it is easy, but if you're the individual founder, owner, and you're out working in the field every day, make it your goal. Like one goal is to get a review from absolutely everybody that's willing to give you a 5-star review, and you'll see a shift in your Google presence.
100%. Last thing I want to dive into, and just kind of changing topics a little bit here, I noticed on your Google My Business and your website you mentioned 24/7 support. I don't know if this is common in the roofing industry or if this is unique to you guys, but it's definitely not something like we really see in the pressure washing industry. So can you talk a little bit about that? And to confirm, does that mean you have someone available to answer phones literally any time of any day?
Yeah, we have a VA, that when we clock out here in the office, they come on. And then it's probably a little different, these verticals, because I don't know why, but every single storm that happens is like on a Saturday night or a Friday night, and it's crazy. But we have guys that are available. We have a big group chat with everybody in it, and we're like, hey, it's 8 o'clock at night or whatever it is, 10 o'clock at night, this roof just got ripped off and it needs to be tarped. Who's available to go to XYZ zip code and go tarp a roof? And, typically somebody's available that night to go out there and do that. So we do have available phone support all the time. And most of the time, if it's an extreme emergency, like something crazy is going on, we'll find somebody to get out there, even if I had to go myself or one of the leaders had to go. If it's something that's like, hey, I lost a few shingles, I'm looking to get it tarped. Is it leaking? No. Cool. We'll be out at 9 a.m. And they're cool with that. But we do have the available phone support to answer their calls at any time.
That's awesome. Well, cool. That really covers all my questions for today. This was super valuable. I mean, tons of golden nuggets on different, really important topics. So this is really great. And so for the people that are watching today's video, where could they find you online and just learn a bit more about you?
I probably do most of my posting and stuff to Facebook. So they can look me up on Facebook and add me on there. I skim some of the other social medias, but I don't think I post there a ton. So that'd be the predominant way that they can reach out, and if they look at anything or want to chat. I always love talking business, and it's just enjoyable to me. And I typically learn something along the way. So
awesome. Well, I definitely learned a ton today, and I'm sure the people watching can relate. So this was great. Once again, thanks for coming on, Aaron.
Yeah, thanks for having me.